the chamber team of Molly Hall and myself, Kaz Macklin, together with our guest, One Zebra. And we have Catherine and James with us today, which is awesome. We're just going to let everyone come in. When Molly lets me know everyone's come in, we'll begin the webinar with you guys.
Perfect. This looks like everyone's in now, Kaz. Thank you.
Excellent, good. Right, without further ado, thank you all for giving up your time and for joining us today for our partnership event with One Zebra and the live webinar. Without further ado, we'll go over to our co-hosts. I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you and say hello and set the tone for the day. The event will last until about 12 noon. There will be a plenary session, a breakout session for you guys to enjoy, not for networking, but to maybe reflect on the content of what we're going to learn. I'm truly excited about this because One Zebra have whetted my appetite and said they've got lots and lots of giveaways and takeaways, and they told me they're givers. They told me they're givers. So Matt, without further ado, can I ask you to step up and introduce both you and Catherine? Rachel, thank you.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Kaz, and good morning, everybody. So I'm going to hand over to you, Rachel, just to do an introduction of yourself first of all, and then I'll pick up and we can run into the webinar from there.
Sure, thanks, Matt. So hello, everyone. Hello, everybody. I think you're all in Kent. I'm actually based in Dubai. So that's the love of remote working. You can be anywhere in the world these days. So I work with Matt as a marketing growth director. I help mainly SMEs with their marketing. I've been doing marketing since day dot, but I have a lot of focus in the digital area, having worked for digital only businesses, online subscription businesses, for big financial services organisations, also non-for-profit organisations, and the list goes on. But what I love to do is help SMEs and bring kind of big company thinking or expertise in particular areas to SMEs. So that's me. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Rachel. Okay, so my name is Matt. I'm the founder and CEO of One Zebra. I'm not going to go into any more detail other than that. I'm going to get cracking because you are here to learn about these 6 points on the slide right now. So here's the thing, right? Every single one of your customers will see or hear in excess of 5,000 commercial messages every single day. It's an overwhelming amount of information, and your marketing is in competition for a slice of people's attention. It's not just your competitors you're competing with, it's just this overwhelming amount of information from emails, from social media, billboards, radio, TV. It's an overwhelming amount of information that we're competing with. So the biggest single mistake that I see companies making is overcomplicating or confusing their customers. People don't necessarily buy the best products. They're more likely to buy the ones they can understand the fastest. So if you only take one thing away from today's session, it's to keep it simple. And for us to communicate clearly as brands, we need to understand, as Rachel referred to, what the biggest brands in the world have known for decades. And we need to understand how the human brain works. So all of our brains, your customers' brains, our brains, my brain, we're all hardwired to do two things above anything else, two things. The first thing our brains do is they help us survive and thrive. And so all that information that's coming at us on a daily basis, the way our brain filters that is to say, okay, does this help me put food on the table, save time, save money, make my life better, make me look better? Does it increase my standing in the world in some way, shape or form? That's how our brains filter information. The problem is that at the same time, our brains are a calorie conserving machine. They are very, very good at conserving calories. So your brain is something like 2% of your body weight, but it burns between 20 and 30% of your daily calorie consumption. And it burns that information, that burns those calories processing information. So what that means for your marketing is if you're not simple, if you're not clear, if you're not concise, our brains instinctively tune it out. You know what it's like? You can sit there listening to the radio in the car and you won't hear the adverts, or you'll be scrolling through social media on LinkedIn and all those ads on the right hand side. You will not see them because your brain instinctively tunes them out, even though it's seen them subconsciously. Our brains are very, very good at this. And so we need to be crystal clear in our marketing to get people's attention. I want to give you an analogy to take away as well. I want you to imagine, so keep in mind, marketing is essentially an exercise in memorization. You're trying to get people to remember your brand and your message and what your value proposition is. So every piece of information that you give someone is like handing them an 8-pound bowling ball. So if I land on your website and you're trying to communicate some kind of a message, it's like giving me a bowling ball. So I can look after one. That's fine. I'm going to remember that. If you give me 2 bowling balls, I'm going to be all right with that. You give me 3 bowling balls. Now I'm starting to get a bit sketchy, but what's going to happen if you try and give me any more? I'll drop the lot. People want simple, easy to understand information, yet you'll land on people's websites and it's an overwhelming amount of information. So people don't remember anything. And that's the same with your social media ads, your email marketing, whatever it might be. People want easy and concise, easy to understand information. Don't give them bowling balls. If you do, you create confusion and you lose. And it's only getting tougher, right? We're fighting for people's attention and we need to keep it simple. So the good news is that story is a great sense-making device. So, storytellers since the days of Aristotle and for centuries and centuries have used story to compel and communicate information. Everyone pays attention when a story starts. You go to the movies and you can be lost in a movie for 2 or 3 hours. You read a great book and the kind of books you can't put down, you're sucked into that book. The key thing here though is that, and I'm sure it's not the first time you've been told, you need to be great storytellers, but the key difference here is it's not about your story. From a marketing perspective, nobody cares about the story of your business, the history of your business, how long you've been around, how many offices you've got, how many awards you've got. They don't care. It's about using story and inviting your customers into a story that's about them, which is where the story brand messaging filter comes in. It's a 7-part storytelling framework that's based on the same rules of story that Hollywood uses, that great authors use. It's formulaic. Stories are formulaic, and I might start ruining movies for you a little bit when I walk you through this, because when they create these movies, they base them on a broad framework, and this framework is all about using that same logic to create a marketing tool, a set of marketing filters that you can filter your messaging through. So every story, every movie, every great book starts with a character, and in the first few minutes of that movie, they posit a story question. Who is this main character, and what do they want? Will the hero of the story get what they want? So the first principle is that you need to agitate your customer's desire in order for them to enter into the story that your brand is telling. You need to be crystal clear on what it is that your customer wants. What happens next is something gets in the way of the hero getting what they want, right? And this is where they set the hook of a great movie, and everyone's wondering, okay, will the hero overcome this problem? And actually, there are 3 levels of problem that we need to think about in our marketing: external, internal, and philosophical. I'm not going to go into the absolute detail of those. We will touch on it in the next section when we go into breakout rooms. But the second principle is that you need to get comfortable talking about your customers' problems. Otherwise, they'll stop paying attention to your brand. Okay. Now, once we've defined our customers' problems and we're talking about those frustrations, they may be feeling a little helpless. And what storytellers do is they introduce another character to stories to help the hero find their way. And we call this character the guide. So if you've watched the Hunger Games movies, Haymitch plays the guide to Katniss. If you watch Star Wars, Yoda or Obi-Wan are the guides to Luke Skywalker. And here's the key. So what we encourage brands to do is you need to play the guide to your customers. You're the guide, your customer is the hero of the story, and that's important. And the two characteristics of a guide are empathy and authority. So we need to empathize with our customers' situations, their problems, their frustrations, and we need to show authority that we've got the right to help them overcome those or make their lives better in some way, shape, or form. So principle number 3, your customer is the hero of the story, not your brand. Okay, so at this point, if you've done that through your messaging, your customers are thinking, well, actually, maybe this person can help me, or maybe this is the right product or solution for me. But this is the first point in the customer's journey that they're going to put themselves at risk. So if I get in touch with you, if I buy from you, I'm putting myself at risk. I'm risking time or money or reputation. And so what we need to do is we need to give them a plan. And you may well be familiar with this. You've seen it on websites, the 3-step plan, what step 1, step 2, step 3. The reason we do that and the purpose of those is to remove the fog. It's what we call the fog. So where a customer wants to work with you, but they don't know what's going to happen next. Again, instinctively, as human beings, we will move towards clarity and away from uncertainty. When we don't know what happens when we buy a product or engage in a service, we don't know what happens next, and it doesn't feel simple, we are more likely to move away from it. We're less likely to buy. So we need to give them an easy plan, a step-by-step plan, so they can understand how to do business with us and what's going to happen next. Now, our hero still needs one more thing at this stage before they will fully step into a story. They need us to call them to action. And again, I'm sure you're all familiar with calls to action. Heroes are reluctant to take action on their own. You know, a bomb goes off, or a couple meet, but then they're separated. Something happens that forces the hero to take action. And the reason it's true in stories is because it's true in life. People don't take action unless they are called to take action. Now, on your websites, this would be the one obvious button to press: buy now, schedule a call, something like that. Now, Rachel will go through this when she goes through the website layout shortly, but the key here is that it must be direct. You've got to give people something to either accept or reject. When your primary call to action is learn more, for example, on your website, that is passive, and it doesn't get as much success as something more direct. So principle 5, call your customers to action. Now, the next part of the framework is success. So we need to explain to our customers what they stand to gain if they do business with us, and also conversely, what they stand to lose if they don't. So a story has to have stakes. If there are no stakes, there is no story. So if you've watched the Taken movies with Liam Neeson, Liam Neeson's daughter, he's ex-CIA. His daughter is kidnapped by human traffickers, and he's got this certain set of skills he's going to use to get his daughter back. His kind of late teenage years daughter. It's a terrible story. Now, if 15 minutes into that movie, Liam Neeson rescues his daughter, and they spend the rest of the movie shopping in London and rebuilding their broken relationship, that is not a movie that I'm going to watch, and I'm sure you're not either. It's a boring movie. And the reason is because as soon as he rescues his daughter, there's no longer anything to gain or lose. And so principle 6 is we need to cast a vision of what our customers' lives could look like if they do business with us, if they buy our product. And we need to visualize that, whether it's through images on the website, messaging, and so on. We need to visualize what life could look like. Conversely, we also have to show our customers the consequences of not doing business with us. If nothing can be lost in a story, there is no story. Imagine a movie in which the hero has to disarm a bomb, and then 10 minutes in, we discover the bomb is fake and nobody's actually at risk. Is there a story? There's not, because there's no longer any consequences as to whether the hero takes action. Now, just to be clear, although we absolutely think you should talk about the consequences of not doing business with you, there's balance here. This is not about being a fearmonger. There are smart and kind ways to do this. And you want to think about the stakes of your story. If I give you the analogy of baking a loaf of bread, if I'm baking a loaf of bread, the success is like the flour in the recipe. The stakes is like the salt in the recipe. You need a little bit, not too much. But if there's no salt, the bread tastes terrible. So principle 7, you need to talk about the consequences. So These are the 7 elements of effective stories. They're the filters that you should be running your marketing through. And in my opinion, if you ignore these lessons, you are losing potential customers, because this is the language that the human brain works. So from a practical perspective, I want you to ask these 7 questions. And by the way, I think we'll share or an abridged version of these slides with you afterwards. And actually, there's a series of videos where I walk through each of those parts of the framework on our YouTube channel as well, so you can refer to that later. But these are the 7 questions. Who is your customer? What do they want? What's getting in the way of them getting what they want? How can you position yourself as the guide with empathy and authority? Do you have a clear plan to help your customers win the day? Are you using clear calls to action? You're defining and visualizing success for your customers and defining what's at stake. Those are the 7 questions. Now, by the way, if you've got any questions as we go through this session today, guys, we're going to have a session for questions at the end, but you can also drop things in the chat if you so wish, and we'll try and answer them as we go along. All right. So we are shortly going to break out into 2 groups, and Rachel will take one, I'll take the other. But we're going to take everything that we've just been through very quickly. That is a very quick rundown of the framework. And we're going to try and create what we call the one-liner, which is, it's a bit like an elevator pitch, but a bit shorter, but it's longer than your tagline. Think of it, it sits somewhere in between. And if you go to networking events, this is a great tool to use, where you can use the power of story to respond to the question, so what do you do? When someone says to you, so what do you do at a party, at a networking event? The one-liner is a better way to answer that question. So in the context of my business, if someone says, Matt, so what do you do? And I say, well, I'm a marketing consultant. That's not much of a conversation starter. It's a dull response. Whereas if I use this framework, problem, solution, product, result, it's a far more compelling way to answer that question. So here's an example. So most people get stressed out when they think about having to remodel their kitchen, so they never actually do it. MC Contractors takes the pain out of your remodel project, so you can get your dream kitchen faster without all the hassle. So if you break that down, most people get stressed out when they think about having to remodel their kitchen. Problem, and actually internal problem. Stressed out is the emotional response to remodeling your kitchen. MC Contractors, which is the imaginary company, takes the pain out of your remodel project. That's the service. That's what we do, so you can get your dream kitchen faster without all the hassle. That's the end result. That's painting a picture. So when someone says to the owner of MC Contractors, oh, so what do you do? They could say, well, we fit kitchens. Or you could say, well, do you know how most people get really stressed out at thinking about having to remodel their kitchen and then never actually get around to it? Well, what we do is we take the pain out of that remodel project, so you can get your dream kitchen faster without all the hassle. It's just a cleaner response. All right. So Molly, so just very quickly at the end of this session today, but everything I've talked about there, the entire story brand framework is all in this book. So I've literally got 5 copies of this book. They're hardback copies, just out of my library, because that's how much of a fan I am. I'm gonna give away 5 copies at the end of this session today. So I'll tell you how you can potentially win one of those at the end of the session, and I will courier them to you within the next week or so. So stay tuned. I'm going to hand over to Rachel now. What you see on the screen there is it's a zoomed out version of kind of a recommended website homepage layout that uses the story brand framework to create and kind of place these messages within your website homepage. Rachel is going to take you through that, but I just wanted to give you some context. So it's kind of like imagine you're scrolling homepage. So without further ado, over to you, Rachel.
Thanks, Matt. I'm glad you said that, because I was no, we've definitely practiced this. We've got the zoomed in slides here. This is kind of the main part of the screen when people kind of land on your website. So as you'd imagine, using the story brand framework, you would put in what we've got here, which is what your customers want and what you do, as the headline. So if you think about UX best practice, they say ideal, you should put only 6 words there. So this shows that you've really got to work very hard to get that headline in place. And then underneath your headline, you'll have some supporting text. So here in the supporting text, you'll have the be clear on what you sell. So this is really talking about what is the solution. And again, avoid any clever statements, avoid any confusion that you might potentially be thinking about putting on, but you're not sure. You need to make sure that you've got clarity in your statements before you stick them on your website, your shop front really. If you can see here, call to actions, Matt talked about call to actions. You've got the pink boxes. They're pink boxes, they're pink for a reason. They need to stand out. You need to get people to hit those buttons. The call to action might be here, buy now, simple as that. And then you've got another secondary call to action, which is here called a lead magnet. So if I gave you an example of that, what that might say, it might say, download our brochure. So the lead magnet is it's there to give people a second action to take if they're not ready to press that buy now button. So they go on your website. Some people, I've been here before, I want to buy from you, but those people that might be their first visit, they might want to know a bit more about you. They might then go, I'm just going to download a bit more information. On the bottom there, you've got value or success. So you might want to do something very short there. Something to go, well, what will I get if I buy this service or product? So in terms of One Zebra, it could be, make the most of every pound spent on your marketing. So we would say there that we're offering obviously marketing expertise, etc. But the value or success that people might get is they will get their marketing pound to go further. Matt, do you want to go to the next slide? Thank you. So I think we've talked before that, in the story brand framework, we've talked about the problem that our businesses are going to help solve for our customers. And we need to kind of remind people that these will be the problems that we can help them solve. So this being on their website also aggravates the problem in that person's mind and also gives that person a prompt to think, oh yeah, I do have that problem. I do need to contact this company. They're going to help me solve it. They're going to help me actually get to where I need to get to. So give an example of the problem. An example may be, I'm a small business owner. I don't have time to do all the marketing I need. So that might be the problem that a potential customer for a One Zebra client might have. And again, the call to action. So the call to action there might be buy now. In our sense, for One Zebra, it's not buy now. It's actually give us a call. We would ask people to call us up and we can chat about helping them. Matt, do you want to go to the next slide? Fantastic. Okay, so the next slide is again on your website. If you can imagine, this is your website homepage or the landing page where people come to after the great marketing you've done. As you're positioning yourself as a guide, if you remember, Matt said there was 2 things you need to demonstrate. So there is demonstrating empathy. Empathy, if you say, we understand, we've been in your shoes, or our customers have told us, blah, 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 whatever that might be for your business. And then also authority as well. So I think on the next page, we've got some examples of authority here. Yes, so builds authority with client logos. So here you may give some client logos to say these are the people, the big companies we've worked with. That's not what many companies do. But also you might be looking for client logos or looking for a similar business to the business that you are, you're like. So if you were thinking about working with One Zebra in this instance, this is the example I'm giving, and you run a florist company, then you might think, oh, they've worked with a florist before. So it gives that authority. And then here, a statement that differentiates you from differentiates you versus competitors. So you really want to give people a bit of a standout. This is kind of your business show reel if you wanted to put a video, and a call to action there as well. So the call to action, if someone is convinced at this point, they may want to move to the next part, which is actually buying from you. Thanks, Matt. You've got a great job here. You're slick on this. Thank you very much. So when you're on the website, again, Matt talked about the 3-step plan that you have in your story brand framework. It is the same 3-step plan that you put on your website. So step 1, maybe fill in an inquiry form. It could be something different. Step 2 will be, and we'll arrange a call with you. Step 3 will be, get on the way to fixing your marketing, or whatever that might be. And I will say our website's a whole lot better than the examples I'm giving, and we'll refer the website to you later on, of course. And a call to action at the bottom, just in case you've kind of gone, oh yeah, that's really easy. You've convinced me, and you click the button, and you're ready to take the next step. So customer testimonials. Like all of us, customers can talk, especially when they've got great things to say. So I think putting customer testimonials on your website is a great thing to do. It demonstrates authority. It demonstrates that you deliver the results that you're saying you're going to deliver. But you also need to make sure that the customer testimonial doesn't say everything. It needs to be quite clear on your website, so that a customer can completely engage. And thank you very, very much, Matt. Here you go, here's some tips. So what would you ask what questions would you ask your customers if you want them to give you a testimonial? So how are they feeling about the problem before working with you? So I was really frustrated. I just don't understand how I should arrange my finances. Tell us about your experience of working with you. So if it was a financial planning company, which is the example I gave there, it might say, and so finance made it really simple and really easy. And that's kind of the response or the experience, the feeling when working with the company. And then how are you feeling now? So the final bit saying, okay, it was easy and it was simple, which was point 2. Point 3 is, and now I feel really confident about my financial planning. So that is the outcome. So you've talked them through, they were frustrated about a problem. Whoever the company name is made it really easy and simple. And then the result, how are you feeling afterwards? I'm really now confident because. And then the failure statement here. So of course you want to highlight what's at stake if the prospect doesn't act and doesn't work with your business. So you may want to think about what that is, but as Matt said, I love that analogy. It really is a pinch of salt in that recipe when you're baking. So you don't want to overdo this. You don't want to be really negative in your messaging, but it is something that again aggravates people to take that action. And then of course you need to say, what will the customer expect? So this needs to be really clear, really simple. It needs to be positive, and also a short statement there of what life will look like if they buy. That's really important. So if you're saying the customer will expect this, this, and this from your company, and this is what it will feel like after, my life will be so much easier, or whatever that might be. Call to action, again, all the way through your website. You okay to move on? Finally, we talked about the lead magnet. So the lead magnet at the very top of the page. So we said call to action, buy now. But if it's not, someone's not ready to buy now, they need a bit more time to be convinced, you then give them another button where they might download something, whatever it might be, or they might watch a video. They still need a little bit of convincing. When you press that lead magnet button, as we've called it in our template, it will flick you down to this area here. And then with that area, you will ask someone for their name, for their email address, which is a great way to capture their data so you can keep engaging with that customer. And at the same time, they download something which is valuable to them. So it might be information around what they might expect from the service. It might be some top tips. It's something that the person who comes to your website will think, oh yeah, that's really handy. When I come back to it, I've got something to refer to. And then at the bottom, with all websites, you've got the footer there with some key links, which I think we're all familiar with. So I think I've captured everything there, Matt. Call me out if I've missed anything. I'm going to hand back to you now.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rachel. Okay, so that entire template is available for everyone. You can download the full thing. It's all online. Molly, if you could drop the link you've got there into the chat, yeah, just click on that link, guys. You can download the entire template from there. I guess a couple of things just to reiterate. Testimonials, was one of the things we said you're going to get out of this session. Not all testimonials are made equal. Often when you just ask for someone to give you a testimonial, they'll wax lyrical about how great you were. It was lovely. Kaz was amazing. Molly was fantastic, which is nice, but it is not as powerful as a story of transformation. And so what Rachel was talking you through there is, where was the customer? I was feeling really frustrated. My marketing wasn't working for me. I was struggling to generate demand for my business. We worked with Rachel, who helped us clarify our message and build a great lead generating sales funnel. And now I'm getting more leads than I can handle. That is a story of transformation. And then when someone else who needs that service, who faces the same problem, reads that, they can see themselves in that story. It's a story in a couple of sentences. And so by asking your customers the right questions when you ask for testimonials, you get far more powerful stories. And if you can get those on video, that's gold dust, because those kind of assets are incredibly powerful. The second thing I'd say is about the lead generator. A lead generator should label someone as a potential customer for you. When you create something like that, a lead magnet of some kind, an ebook or a calculator or a video series, when I engage with it, it should say, actually, I'm a potential customer. So for us, download this website template, or we've got an ebook on how to build a lead generating sales funnel. Those are things that we do. They label people as customers, and they give away knowledge and expertise. That is the key. Give away stuff that is useful to your potential customers. So what have we done so far? Just to recap, we've talked about how to avoid confusing messaging, so using the story brand framework so you can communicate with customers the value you offer, how to leverage the power of story in your marketing so you can stand out from all that noise. We've talked about how to structure our homepage to convert more website visitors into inquiries. I appreciate this is a bit like drinking from the fire hose. There's a lot of information we want to give away. But like I say, the download the link is in the chat there now. You can access it from there. It's all there to help you refer to later. We talked about testimonials. We've talked about how to leverage a lead generator. The final piece here that we're going to go through now, if someone clicks on that lead generator, downloads it, now you've got a lead. Okay, now you've got a marketing generated lead. The question is, what do you do with that next? My advice is, don't pick up the phone and call them. That would be creepy. You want to nurture them. They are at the top of the funnel. They're possibly interested. If they want to get in touch, they'll be ready to get in touch. My preference is always for nurturing marketing. So you want to create something that's going to nurture them towards buying from you. So the final thing we're going to talk about is an email sequence. Now, there are many different ways to do this. email marketing is by far, by a long shot, the most cost-effective way to generate leads, by a long shot. That it beats everything hands down. Google ads, social media, etc., etc. Email marketing is still the most successful way you can generate demand for your business. The problem is that a lot of people do it really badly. You know, the spam you get in your inbox is bad email marketing. Good email marketing is about nurturing people, offering them value, and doing it in a smart and effective way. So this is just one example of an email sequence. If I've downloaded your ebook or whatever lead generator you've used, I'm going to walk you through what you can put together in terms of a series of emails using, you know, a MailChimp or whatever tool you use, HubSpot. So email number one is a thank you. You know, thanks for downloading this free asset, this PDF. You know, keep it really brief. Make sure the key is you're adding enormous value with the lead generator. Maybe just a quick reminder of what's in the lead generator. You know, people will download these things on the fly, do something else, get distracted. So just a quick reminder of it. But don't oversell. This is not the time to be jumping down their throat trying to buy something from them. It's just a follow-up and saying thanks for downloading it. That should be the first email. Email number two. Now, in the second email, what you want to try and do is identify the problem and offer a solution. So what we talked about, problem solution from the story brand framework, identify that, acknowledge it, resonate with their pain, introduce your product or service as a potential solution that's going to solve that pain point. So for us, we might identify the fact that the message is unclear, it's costing the customer enormous amounts of money, and then we introduce the product, you know, what we do to help resolve that. So be specific about the problem. That's one of the key things here. People are often too vague when they describe the problems they resolve. In the one-liner sessions, we had some good examples of the problems that people are solving. You want to be real specific about that and then position your product or service as a resolution to that problem. And when we talk about the problem, by the way, I mentioned earlier the 3 levels of problem: external, internal, philosophical. The external problem is the problem. It's the thing that's getting in the way of what your customer wants. So for my customers, my marketing isn't working, but that's not why people buy. They buy because that manifests an internal emotion. I'm frustrated, I'm under pressure, I'm worried. It's the internal emotion that you need to speak to. And the third level, at some level, that's just plain wrong, philosophically wrong. So it's, you know, philosophical questions in movies are right versus wrong, good versus evil. It's at that level. In marketing, it's, you know, you've worked damn hard to build a business. You've got a great product or service. It's not right that you're unable to generate and find customers for that product or service. You're far better than your competition, yet they seem to be generating more leads than you. That's not right. That's the philosophical problem. So it's using statements like that to connect with people. Flip to the next slide. So email number 3, a testimonial. So we talked about testimonials. Shouldn't be about you. It should be about a customer transformation, how they've experienced success with your brand, or even better, a video, which is even more powerful. Make sure you show the customer's success and also then include a strong call to action. Call to actions are important in emails. One great way to do this is using the PS. People will usually read the PS of an email. They'll skim read, but they'll more often than not read the PS. So it's a great place to put it. Next thing for email 4 is to try and overcome an objection. So, you know, it could be a clear pain point or a reason that someone may not buy. You probably know what these are, but if you can address them, it's like recognizing the elephant in the room. They address the objection, talk about the resistance, show empathy, show authority from that guide bucket of your brand script, you know, how you position yourself as the guide. And as I said, include the PS section there where you can add further value or overcome an objection again. And then email 5, it's only at this point that I'd recommend you then go full on with what we call a sales letter. This is now a direct request for the sale. This is now, don't be shy about coming forwards. It's a direct call to action, and repeat it in that email. Be clear, be specific, illustrate what success you can give your customer. And one of the things you might want to look up is something called the PASTA framework when you're writing this sales letter. So PASTA stands for is problem, so the detail of the problem. Amplify, so amplify the consequences. So talk about the problem, then make it worse. Offer the solution, so describe how the problem will be solved, which is S. T is transformation. So people aren't buying stuff, they're not buying a product, they're buying the transformation. We don't buy a nice jacket because we want the jacket. We buy it because we want to look good, or we want to feel warm. O is for the offering, so exactly what you're offering. So PASTO, and R, response. So tell your customers what they need to do. PASTA, problem, amplify the consequences, solution, transformation, offer, response. Again, if anyone wants, you can Google PASTA and you'll find lots of stuff online about that. Or if you want it, feel free to drop me an email and I'm happy to share that with you. So takes a deep breath. Number 6, we've covered that, how to create a lead generating email sequence. And we are coming up to about 11:30. I wanted to now show you like a real example of where we've kind of put this all to work. So what you see on your screen here is the website of what the website used to look like of a previous client of ours. And before we went through the story brand framework with them. So the challenge here, and I'm going to pick these things out for you. When you land on this website, yes, the top left-hand corner. So when someone lands on your website, their eyes typically go in a Z fashion across the page, top left. And on mobile, by the way, it's more of an E. They kind of go across, down. People scan websites. They scan and scroll. And when someone lands on your website, you've got 7 or 8 seconds to convince them they're in the right place. And then they hit the back button and go to the next search result if you don't do that, if you're giving them too many bowling balls. So here there was an element of vagueness in their website. They've got lots of menu items across the top. There's no direct bright call to action button. The call to action button, by the way, is like the cash register in a shop. It's like the till. It's like, coming to, when you can't find the call to action button, buy now or schedule a call, if you don't put it and you don't repeat it, when someone's ready to do that, if it's not right there, it should literally be right there ready for them to do so, because you're immediately calling them to action. When it's not there, it's like walking into a shop, picking up something off the rail, and then you can't find the cash register in the shop. That's essentially what you're doing when you leave a call to action button off your website. So they didn't have that. What now? Your customers have changed. What will you do next to define you? It's all vague and non-specific, right? I'm not going to go into their entire website, but this is where they were. This is what it looks like now. So across the top of the screen, you've got a lead generator. Download the first 2 chapters of the book. You've got a logo top left to tell you exactly what they do. Top right, you've got a get in touch button, tells you exactly what they want you to do. We design remarkable services and experiences your customers will love. And that's what exactly do we do? What do you get? You get to reimagine the future, unlock new value, inspire your teams, make change happen. It's all about being crystal clear and getting straight to the point so that you encourage people to then scroll so that they're willing to read and invest a bit more time. So as you can see, the difference between the two is pretty significant. All right. So as I promised, we're going to give away these books to 5 of you lucky people. It's the hardback copy of the book. It is a great book. You can also download, by the way, on all places you can buy books. You can download the audio book if you'd prefer. But I would highly recommend it. If you want to get one of these free copies, however, you need to, and Molly, if you could paste these links in the chat for me, please. You need to follow One Zebra on LinkedIn, please. You need to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I put a bunch of content out on there. Everything I've talked about today it's all on there. There's videos to talk you through that. There's videos to talk you through the story brand framework, videos to talk about using controlling ideas and all sorts of cool stuff. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, do those 2 things, and then download that website layout template. if you do that, that'll mean I've got your email address. I'll be able to then contact you, get your address, and I will send you a copy of the book. All right. And so that's for, I think everyone actually is in the UK. I'm assuming so, but we're not shipping them anywhere else. I'm generous, but I'm not that generous. All right. Okay. Enough of me talking. Does anybody have any questions? You can drop them in the chat, or I guess unmute and just jump on and ask away. And between Rachel and I, we'll do our best to answer them.
Many thanks for that, guys. Really, really interesting. I think everybody perhaps is lost in thought as we digest this information here. Nothing from me yet. I'm just trying to process it all. What about from our other guests? Just jump in here, unmute yourself, guys, and jump in. And Matt and Rachel are here for you.
Matt, I had a question for you. Sandhya here.
Hey, Sandhya, go for it.
Hi. What I gathered from what you were saying is there has to be a fine balance, I suppose, between highlighting the consequences of not working with a particular business vis-a-vis sounding very negative.
Yep.
In your marketing, isn't it? So you've got to get that balance right, because there's always a consequence. You know. And I guess it's about getting that balance right. Am I saying that?
You make a great point, and it's usually the first thing people will say to me is, "Yeah, but I don't want to be a fearmonger, Matt. That I don't want to be that business." And rarely, if ever, do I find that people are talking too much about the negative stakes or the consequences of not doing business with people. The key here is that, and the question I would say to you is if there are no stakes with someone. If someone doesn't do business with you or doesn't buy your product, if there's nothing at stake, then why would I do business with you? All right. But as I say, it is not about being a fearmonger. It's about actually understanding that as human beings, actually all of us, we wake up as the protagonist in our own story every single day, right? We live our story. And so we face these obstacles or problems, or we want to get ahead in life somehow, shape or form. And so whatever you offer, so in the case of yourself, Sandhya, you're the HR paracetamol, is that right?
Personnel paracetamol, I call it.
Yeah, sorry, that was it. So, there are companies out there that are facing these problems. And so by talking about them, you capture their attention as someone that can solve that problem. Because the alternative, what I tend to see is people they talk about their own company. They'll say, well, we've been around for 25 years. My dad established our business and I took it over. And what someone hears is, that sounds like a great story. I'd love to hear it sometime, but actually right now I'm looking for someone to guide me and help me solve my problems. So that's the difference. You have to talk about them, but yes, it is a balance. Go heavy on the success, go light on the consequences. Okay. I think there's some things. Owen said, thanks for taking the time. Awesome. That's great. Take care. If anyone doesn't have questions, but if the other thing I can potentially offer here, if anyone is brave enough and you want to put your website up on the screen, we've got some time. I'm happy right now we can put your website on the screen and we can do some live just coaching and feedback on how you might make some improvements to your website right now, if anyone's keen. Oh, Natasha's volunteered.
That's a really generous offer, Matt. What I would say to everyone is Chatham House rules apply here. In our plenary session earlier on, I stuck myself out.